are present. Our jurors are not yet present. Counsel willing to be heard on something?
Yes, Your Honor. Just hold on a question. Mr. Beasley, defense keeps objecting is outside the scope. I do remember when we tried to go into things and impeach witnesses or use witness to our benefit, when the people called them, they said it goes outside their scope, and the argument was it interrupts their flow and presentation of evidence. And the court sustained that objection and says you cannot go into anything outside the scope of what's presented on direct. And now the court is allowing them to go outside the scope with our witness in the disregard for the objection that goes outside the scope. We didn't deal with many of the things, or most of the things that counsel has been questioning the witness about, including viewing things that were in the gravesite. We didn't address the gravesite. Actually, we tried, and the people stopped us from even addressing the gravesite. So we weren't even allowed to go into that, and now they are, because we wanted to have him give an opinion as to what was found, the items that were in there. We were precluded his viewing of evidence. They're able to go into that. I think the wide breadth on this is inappropriate and inconsistent with the restrictions that were put on defense. And our objection is that we ask that the same rulings that were granted for the people should be granted for the defense.
The objections overruled. Mr. Beasley offered opinions about things that did or did not occur inside the residence, and the questions on the cross-examination go to that ultimate opinion.
His opinion was only that there was no acts of great violence that can cause the injuries suffered as described by Dr. Changsri didn't happen in that house. And that was the limit of his opinion, not that nothing happened in the house, which, you know, counsel has misrepresented his conclusions and testimony so he can create a false narrative and then attack the false narrative that he created. And that, again, is beyond the scope, since we didn't address those type of issues with him.
The objections overruled.
To return.
Okay.
Guys ready now?
Sure.
Let's go in.
3043?
The record reflect we are back in session. Obviously, counsel are present. All members of our jury and our alternates are present. Our witnesses back in the witness stand. And Mr. Doherty, you may continue your examination.
Thank you. During the break, did you have an opportunity to review your testimony from the Alfonso Garcia case to see if you qualified whether it was blood or not?
I did not.
And that case was just last February, right?
Correct.
And did you not ask to review it because you don't care how accurate you were in your testimony?
Your Honor, objection argumented.
Sustained.
That was Mr. McGee was your client in that case? Or
Checks
his client?
client.
His client's client?
Well, as rephrased, overruled.
Mr. McGee was the attorney who retained me on the Alfonso Garcia case.
Okay. I'm going to show you, you testified yesterday about the table. I'm back to the table now. You testified that there was no, that the floor underneath the table was clean.
Objection. This states the testimony.
Sustained.
What did you say about the floor underneath the table?
The floor underneath the table did not appear to have any red-brown stains that were consistent with the stains on the table itself. The floor appeared that if it was clean, it wasn't clean very well because it definitely had areas that were dirty.
And in fact, there were areas where there were transfers, right? Or rubs on the floor? I don't know what you call it, where you're trying to rub dirt, trying to sweep it up. What would that pattern be called?
Like a
swipe?
Sort of a broom pattern?
Yeah, like a swipe. Did you see that in this case?
Yes.
Okay. Let me show you exhibit number 35. If I can have my computer, please. And I'm going to zoom in here between the table and the rug. Do you see that?
Yes.
What we're talking about may not show up, but there's a swipe pattern right here.
I see some type of apparently a swipe pattern, could be soil, on the linoleum floor.
Well, do you know that soil?
Do I know that it's soil?
Yes.
No.
You just testified it was soil, but you don't know it was soil.
Objection, misstates his testimony, said it could be soil.
Turning back to the table, exhibit number 39. Now, to be fair, you said yesterday that you saw the patterns on the table, and the question was there any evidence of violence that would lead to bloodshed in the home, right? That was the question that was posed to you.
Yes, that was a question, I believe, separate from the table. And so I answered no, because in my opinion, the stains on the table are not blood.
Okay. And that's because you were instructed that the people's theory of the case was that the murders happened in the home.
Objection, argumentative, and assumes facts not in evidence.
Were you told that the people's theory in this case was that it happened in the home?
Was I told that?
Yes.
I don't recall if I was told that. I may have been. It appeared to be the theory from my evaluation, but that's totally unrelated to my opinion of the evidence, or lack thereof, of blood spatter in the home.
I understand that. My question was, were you told that?
And I said I may have, I don't recall.
Okay. And when you got that question, you saw what was on the table, you indicated that you researched it, right?
Researched what exactly?
What could lead to that kind of staining on the table?
Yes,
And you Googled it.
correct.
You found a website.
I found an article, several articles. I selected one that appeared to be more specific to the type of stains that I saw on the table.
One with no author, right?
There's a company actually that
Right, but who's the author of that post from that company?
I don't recall. I can take a look. Maybe, well, it's in, let me refer back to the report. An online article dated January 26, 2012 from a website of WisnoFurnitureFinishing.com entitled Spatter Effect in the Wood Furniture Finishing.
And the author listed on that blog post is unknown, right?
I will take your word for that.
You don't know.
I don't know, without reviewing the whole article.
So, well, you reviewed the whole article when you were researching this, right?
I don't recall if there was an associated name with the article. There's a website that I listed already, and it details how spatter patterns are created on wood furniture.
And the idea behind that is to create a pattern all over the furniture, right? Create that pattern, that effect.
Correct.
Okay. I've zoomed in here on exhibit number 39. Just to give perspective. So behind us on this photograph would be the rug. If we were the photographer here, behind us would be the rug for perspective.
Correct.
Okay. And there's a calculator here.
Correct.
That calculator is actually there on the photographs taken on the 15th.
I believe so, yes.
And it's your testimony that if there was any violence leading to bloodshed in the home, it would have occurred on the rug, which would be behind the viewer here on this exhibit.
Well, more specifically, if the assumption is that the stains on the table were blood as a result of a blunt force trauma, then the area of origin would have been in the area where the area rug was, in the family room.
Okay. And you're making certain assumptions, aren't you?
Yes.
And one of those assumptions is the table wasn't rotated, right?
Correct.
One of those assumptions is that because if the table was rotated, then the area of impact could have been behind, on top of the exhibit that we're looking at right now.
Objection, assumes facts, not in evidence.
Overruled.
Okay, if you could use your pointer. Then.
Sure.
So,
Up here, if the table had been turned, it's possible it could have been anywhere around here.
Well, now it's calling for speculation.
Overruled.
I can't see in photographs the other side of the table edge, so I could see stains of whatever they are, which in my opinion again are the wood stain of a spatter creating the finish. I could see it basically from this corner all the way over to the chair. I could see little stains. I didn't see through any photographs what's on the opposite side on the edge of the table. So therefore, since blood or anything that's spattered would have to be in an area that would be at the bottom at the bottom of this photograph, exhibit 39, is it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because the surface of the edge of the table would need to be in direct proximity to an area of origin for something spattered.
Assuming the table hadn't been moved.
Correct.
Assuming it hadn't been rotated.
If you rotate the table 180 degrees, then that puts the area of origin near the location of the island for the kitchen. If the table had been rotated 180 degrees.
I'm going to show you exhibit number 40. This was not one of the exhibits you created, right?
Exhibit 40 was not.
And when I zoom in on exhibit 40, and go to the bottom of the table, these spots, in particular right here in the center of the photograph, look different than the solid dark spots, right?
Yes, they do.
Okay. And that's, is that consistent with it being skeletonized?
You could reference that as being skeletonized. Yes. In other words, where part of the center, it doesn't appear that all of whatever the liquid was here, the stain, let's say, or whatever, had been wiped through, but it could have been wiped through. I don't see a white trail, like a white pattern per se, but the center appears to be lighter.
Okay. And so what happens is as the stain's drying, if you wipe it, the ring of the stain will be left, the outside of the stain will be left, the inside will be lighter.
Correct.
Okay. But in any event, several of those appear to be skeletonized.
Correct.
Okay. So if you're creating a spatter effect on a piece of furniture, you wouldn't want to wipe it before it had dried. right?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Well, you researched woodworking and wood staining, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And is there anything that says you need to wipe it before, did you review anything that says you need to wipe it before it dries?
I did not review anything like that.
And
It
if
could
you
have
did,
been wiped, whether it's stain or if you're speculating that it's blood, either way, a liquid could have been wiped, whatever that liquid was.
well, if you're speculating it's stain, or if you're speculating it's blood, either way, if it's wiped, it can create that skeletonized pattern.
Correct.
Okay. And when you're speculating that it's stain, my question is, if you're staining it, you wouldn't want to wipe it before it's dry, right?
I would agree.
Objection calls for speculation.
You would agree, is that what you said?
If I was staining a table myself, I would not want to wipe it before it was dry.
Okay, would you agree that the stain there in the middle where my mouse pointer is, right in the middle of that, where I have it zoomed in, and the surrounding stains are lighter in color than these other stains?
Yes.
And I'm looking here just below the tassel of the beanie to the left of the remote, these are much darker stains than the stains here at the edge of the table.
Yes.
And I'm over to the right here by the dog leash. Those are much darker stains around here than what are found here.
Yes.
Okay. Put up your exhibit number 184 or 1084. Is that your exhibit 1084?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Would you agree that what you have circled there is your fake blood spatter?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about fake blood spatter. At the crime lab, they actually use pig's blood, right?
When I was at the crime lab, I did use actually first human blood from the blood bank, then we used pig blood, and then we used red paint, and we went back, I believe, to pig's blood.
Okay. And the reason you do that is because the viscosity of the liquid actually mimics real blood more than Halloween vampire blood, right?
Well, I've done a little study on that as well.
Okay.
Some vampire blood reacts like real blood, and some vampire blood does not. I did a test even during this experiment to determine that the blood that I used yesterday, although maybe a different color, it appears to be thinner as far as lighter color, it does react like blood when I do, and when I did rather, a drip pattern experiment. And what that is blood dripping into blood, so that when you get the satellite stains, in using that, that is my test, if you will, to see if the fake blood has the consistency to create a drip into drip pattern or not.
Okay, so it's similar in viscosity.
Correct.
Okay. 1084, I zoomed in here just above the 9 on the diagram. Would you agree that fake blood stains are lighter in shade than the spatter stains that were on your dining room table?
That particular fake blood, yes.
Okay, I'll zoom out. Would you also agree that your fake blood there shows some signs of skeletonization?
It does.
And at least in this photograph, maybe this dark color here might have some skeletonization, but there isn't much. There's a clear distinction between what was there before and the fake blood.
There's a distinction, and for example, the appearance of the skeletonization, I had not wiped that fake blood at this time with the photograph either. So it appeared to be skeletonized per your reference, but it was not white.
Okay. Well, that could have been from gravity, right?
Well, yeah, I think part of it is from gravity, but part of it is not. If you look at the smaller stain, it appears to be thicker around the edge, where the larger stain definitely appears to have gravity's effect, where it is settled toward the lower edge of the stain itself.
Okay, I guess in at least these two photographs, comparison of them, and that being exhibit 1084 and a zoom in of exhibit 40, there's a distinction in color from, well, there's a lighter set of stains and a darker set of stains on both of these items, right?
Correct.
As represented here.
Correct.
Okay. Now, back to exhibit 39. Can you tell here on the right of the photograph where the table appears to change color?
If you could be more specific to,
Sure, I'll point. Right along here.
yes,
Okay. And from that point left, there isn't a whole bunch of spatter pattern, is there? A few here and there?
yeah, it's not a uniform spatter, so there are areas that are more void or absent of the spatter, and some areas are more concentrated, more stains in a smaller area.
Okay. And those stains look distinctly different than what I zoomed into on exhibit 40 as well.
Objection, argumentative is determined the question.
If you could be more specific about which stains you're referring to, that
Sure,
would
the
be
stains
good.
I zoomed into 40 here on the left-hand side.
The stains on 40,
Yeah.
some are darker than others, which would also be consistent with more volume of liquid within the stain. The darker means more liquid. So whatever the substance is, if it's thicker, then it'll be darker. So this being thinner can also happen if it's created by air. So using air to create a pattern like this is something that was detailed in the online article. They refer to it as a gravity cup gun. That is also an explanation that is consistent with what I've seen when blood is coughed out or expirated as well.
Okay. So I guess the ultimate question is, you're talking about this one in particular? Kind of where there's some,
The darker one here at the
Okay.
bottom,
okay?
that shade is a lot darker
Uh-huh.
than here.
Right.
And what would explain that is that there's more liquid in the darker stain.
Okay, and more air in the lighter stain. Did you find any other stains on this table that look like this?
It looked like, no, this area here
Yeah.
appeared to be where the stains were lighter. It could have been wiped through after it was deposited. It could have been the air pressure, if it was air pressure. So there's a couple things. That area of the table was unique in that sense.
This area of the table didn't look like any other area of the table.
Correct.
Is it your testimony, based on all you reviewed, that nothing happened in the house that night or that early morning?
No. My testimony is that there's no evidence of a violent blunt force trauma event in the house
Assuming
that would have caused blood to be spattered.
there wasn't sufficient time to clean up. Right?
Yes, of course, assuming that, is there a potential that someone could have cleaned up all of that? The answer is yes, there's a potential. It would be a major, major project, is all I can say.
But you already testified it'd be easier if it was in the bathtub. There are certain locations where it would be easier to clean. Right?
Yes,
And you have to make certain assumptions. I mean, we're assuming all of it happened in the house. Let's assume only one person was injured in the house. That's a different scenario, right?
Well, objection assumes the fact's not in evidence.
Well, you ever work a no-body homicide when you were at the sheriff's department?
Objection relevance.
So you collected evidence even though there was no body.
correct.
And I guess the point of your experiment and the point of what you're saying is that if someone was hurt there, there's no evidence there, according to you, right? There's no evidence of some bloodshed there, right?
The purpose of my experiment was to evaluate how those stains on the table could have been created and what they were. That was the purpose of the experiment with blood on the surface of furniture that had a top coat on it related to the glare that could explain why stains underneath the top coat would not be visible, where stains on top of the surface would be visible.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. In this Exhibit 40, there's no glare.
Correct?
Okay. So the stains in that unique area of the table are visible, right?
Correct.
Okay. Did you do an experiment to see if stains like this would not be visible in the glare? Or let me ask you that, I'm going to draw that question. Do you have any photographs or any examples where this part of the table, unique part of the table, was in glare?
I don't recall if that area was in glare or not.
Okay. But in any event, this area of the table is unique, right?
It's unique with regard to the appearance of stains on that area of the table.
Compared to the whole rest of the table.
Correct.
Okay. And you can't say nothing happened in the house, right?
Nothing happened as far as what exactly?
Well, anything. Can you say at any degree of certainty that nothing happened in the house?
Well, what is your definition of nothing? Is it blunt force trauma?
Sure, blunt force trauma.
Okay, right, it could have happened in the house, but there's no evidence, in my opinion, to support that it did happen in the house.
Okay.
The murders itself.
The murders itself. 4 murders. And again, you're assuming there wasn't sufficient time to clean up.
I'm not assuming that, I'm just making the opinion, there's no evidence to that. And I'm acknowledging that, of course, there's a potential everything was cleaned up.
Okay, because you're aware that the murders happened either the 4th or early morning of the 5th, and this wasn't reported until the 15th, right?
That's what is assumed, yes, that the murders happened on the 4th or 5th. I don't know that, but that's from the reports,
I
yes.
understand, okay. And you're aware that no one in the family was notified until the 9th of February.
I believe that's correct, but I'm going from memory on that.
Okay. So you don't know if during that time period, between the 4th and the 9th at least, that there wasn't sufficient time to clean up whatever did happen, if anything happened.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the time period and time frames for that. That wasn't my focus. My focus was just really the evidence.
Just 1 second, Your Honor, I apologize. So I guess if you can say, if it's not proper to say something's blood without looking at it, or without testing it, this wasn't tested either way, right? This table.
Correct. The table, in my understanding, is missing. It wasn't tested, and it's not available to be tested, is my understanding.
Okay, so it's not proper to say it's blood, but according to you, it's proper to say it isn't blood.
That's my opinion, that in my evaluation, in my experiment, again, in my opinion, that's not blood. Can I say absolutely 100%? No.
Okay.
Opinions
Would
are
you-
not always 100%.
Would you agree that that could be blood, especially in this unique part of the table?
Objection, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
Certainly it could be blood, however, because of the glare, et cetera, for example, these stains are not in the glare. So those stains are separate from the stains that I did see that were next to the white stains and the smudges that were visible in the glare. So it would be appropriate and proper for me to say, even though that's consistent with how stains are applied to wood, I couldn't say since that is separate from the area of glare.
Okay, so the area of glare where you saw them, those stains are different than the stains we're zoomed in on here, right?
When we say those stains, those red stains?
Yes, the
brown
red stains, yes.
No, they're consistent.
They're like this? You just said this was the unique part of the table.
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
You said these stains here on this part of the table were unique from other parts, right?
What I said was some of the stains appeared they could have been wiped through in this part. Other of the stains on this section of the table are consistent with the stains that I see on the table itself.
Okay, so the stains next to the glare that you were just talking about, they don't look like these stains, right?
Some of them do, some of them don't.
Some of them are wiped through?
When you say these stains, if you want to be more specific to say the stains that you referenced as being skeletonized, then yes, those stains, I didn't observe skeletonized stains in the area near the white stains that were on top of the glare.
Which would be like these stains here, right? These dark spots. Right?
I'm not sure your question.
Okay, this stain here looks different than these stains here.
Yes, some of the stains appear to be thinner and could be referenced as skeletonized.
Okay, and that's the only area of the table where they look like that.
That's the only area of the table that I observed them to look like that, yes.
And you're absolutely sure that area of the table is not blood? 100%.
100%? No, I would not say 100%.
Your Honor, and I'm going to object. This is now asked and answered, I think, 6
Sustained,
times.
sustained is cumulative.
Okay, nothing further.
Any other direct?
Sure. So, on cross, counsel started with all the things you didn't do, right?
I think he started with the fact that I'm paid a lot of money. That's, I think, how he started.
Right. God forbid you make money in America, right?
Objection, argument, no strike.
Overruled.
It's not a question. Objection, no question pending.
Overruled.
You were asked multiple times, well, you didn't do this. You didn't do that, correct?
Correct.
Are you on the investigative team for the Sheriff's Department?
No.
For San Diego or San Bernardino?
No.
They didn't do a lot of stuff either, did they?
Correct.
Like when we went to go look at the evidence that they had in property, did we look at every single piece?
No, we did not.
We were selective in what we picked, correct?
Yes.
And then we determined that we wanted to do DNA testing on everything in the grave. We chose not to touch any of it, correct?
Correct.
And that's because the sheriffs didn't do any DNA testing on everything in the grave, right?
Objection, argumentative, no one did any. DNA testing all the gray matter.
Objection sustained, calling for speculation and conclusion as to why.
We decided it'd probably be important to see if we can get any DNA off the items, right?
Yes,
And you were involved in the discussion with Susanna Ryan and myself as to what items we might want to test.
yes,
Because they didn't do it.
correct.
And then we tested and we got results. They refused to do anything with those too, huh?
Objection
Objection
beyond the.
beyond the scope.
Also assumes facts not evidence.
Sustained.
Sorry, I'm looking, I wrote down all the exhibits that they brought up. I'm trying to verify which exhibits there are. Okay. If we can have my computer, please. So I'm showing you exhibit 110, and council represented, there's a towel here, correct?
Correct.
And then I believe it's upstairs master bathroom water closet. And then, I think it was also 279. Check, my notes are correct. That's from the grave. Yes, and he showed you those two pictures, correct, and said, these are all the towels in the house.
Objection misstates testimony in the question that prompted it.
Overruled.
I'm not 100% sure that that was the picture he showed me. Maybe it was one of them.
What he didn't show you
Objection argumentative.
Overruled.
is exhibit 91, which shows towels in the hall closet upstairs, correct?
Objection, that assumes facts not evidence that that's what those are.
Overruled can answer if he believes that it shows towels.
They may be towels. I'm not 100% sure if those are towels, but
Objection, then lacks foundation, move to strike the question and the answer.
Overruled.
96, there's blankets, but we didn't cover those, right? Right?
correct.
112, I mean, this is the linen closet in the bathroom he was just in, right?
That appears to be the same bathroom, yes.
What did you call those things right in the center?
They appear to be towels.
So when counsel said there's no other towels in the house, he was
Objection
misrep-
misstates his question and the testimony that it prompted.
when he stated that there was no other towels in the house, he was misrepresenting the evidence. Would that be fair to
Objection, Your
say?
Honor, misstates counsel's question.
The objection sustained.
And this is 113. What's that on the counter, the white with the blue stripes? Look like another towel?
It could be a towel, yes.
We'll go to 116. Oh. Appear to be other towels in the closet.
Objection calls for speculation and assumes facts not evidence.
Overruled can answer if he has an opinion of what's shown in the photograph.
Some of those items certainly could be towels.
Look like a towel?
That definitely looks more like a towel, bath towel.
Same towel, correct?
The green towel?
Yes.
Yes.
So when he said there was only a couple towels, there's more, right?
Yes.
Now, did we tell you the theory of the people's case?
No, as I recall, you were not 100% sure of the theory of the case.
They don't have one. They never said one, right?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
New theory we can say now is they were killed in the bathtub. You kept asking about that, right?
Sustained.
They didn't show you the pictures of the bathtub, did they? They
No.
showed you a diagram.
Correct.
So let's go through what I went through with Miss Williams. Upstairs master bathroom. Sponge in the bathtub. Would that be something that would
Objection,
hold?
misstates testimony that that's a sponge.
Would an item like that have blood on it? Or if it had blood on it, would it still show?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
There is a potential that if it had blood on it, that it could still be visible.
Here's 732. This is looks like a cloth bag hanging from the handle that kids usually have stored stuff in the bathtub. With something like that in that fabric, would that retain blood if a child was crushed to death with a hammer multiple times? With that thing right there, it's still in the picture, would blood probably still be on that?
Objection, argumentative, and assumes facts on evidence, calls for speculation.
Sustain this phrase.
They started the speculation.
Your Honor, may we approach?
No.
Again, counsel, you can save those arguments for your closing argument. If you have specific questions you want to ask the witness about, you can do so.
The thing in the bathtub there, is that something that would likely hold blood?
Yes. Based on what it is, it looks like it could be something that could soak up blood. I don't really can't tell exactly what it is.
I would object, calls for speculation, lacks foundation.
Overruled.
Does there appear to be dirt on the bottom of the bathtub?
Appears to be some substance that could be dirt.
So when you clean up blood, you usually leave dirt behind.
Objection calls for speculation.
Overruled.
That all depends on how thoroughly something is cleaned. So,
Can you clean up blood, you clean up a homicide, and leave dirt behind?
Objection vague.
Overruled.
well, you could, if after you cleaned, then something that had dirt on it made contact with the bathtub.
Now let's make a clarification in your testimony in People versus Garcia. And I would ask the court to take judicial notice in the FSB 1403043 that this court sat as the trial judge with me as defense counsel, and as they said, Mr. Crocker was the prosecuting attorney.
Well, what do you want me to take judicial notice of?
That you were the sitting judge and I was the defense
Yes,
attorney.
that is true.
Thank you. During that trial, you testified, correct?
Yes,
And you actually reviewed all the evidence in that case?
yes,
You went out to the scene to take measurements and try and reconstruct a crime scene.
yes,
In that case, there was a shooting of 3 individuals
correct,
and the beating of a 4th.
correct,
And the individuals that were shot, and the individual that was beat up was all shot in the same general vicinity on a property.
Correct.
And just for relation's sake, the area that all this occurred on was between you and I'm going to say approximately me here.
Correct. Very small area.
And one of the individuals bled out at the scene after being shot in the body.
Correct.
And there was a large pooling of blood in the grass.
Correct.
Another person was shot through the arm.
Correct.
Another person just had a nick on his ear, correct?
Yes.
The fourth victim that was beat up, what appeared to be left blood swipe stains on the side of a shed.
Correct. When he fell to the ground.
And the
Potentially.
area where 12, 13, and 14 were between the area where the person that was beat and left blood-stained swiping was right in between, the 12, 13, 14 was in between that spot and the spot where the person bled out approximately 8 feet away.
I believe so, yes.
And all the detectives testified, the witness testifies, everybody bled out in that area.
I believe so, yes.
So when you testified, we're identifying the blood, it was the blood that was testified to that the witnesses that, yes, I bled here.
Correct.
You weren't making assumptions, were you?
Correct.
You were following the evidence as presented in trial.
Correct.
And you did that a similar demonstration in that trial, correct?
Objection relevance.
Leading.
The objection is to the demonstration of sustained evidence.
Well, there was no cameras in there that you're making for good TV, right?
Objection, argumentative.
Correct.
Overruled, it's renewed.
And actually last year you did that same demonstration when the people called you.
I did.
San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office.
Objection relevance.
Overruled.
Correct. I did a demonstration of blood spatter related to a cold case homicide where the district attorney retained me. And I did that even specifically related to creating an expiration pattern which would be consistent with someone coughing out blood.
Objection relevance.
Overruled.
And I used the compressed air for that demonstration to educate the jury so that they would understand, since it was critical to part of the prosecution's case.
Now you were present when Dennis Williams testified, correct?
Yes,
Were you present during my cross-examination?
yes,
Were you present when I meticulously went through every single room with all the photographs?
And leading and relevance.
Overruled.
I was.
And during that part of the cross-examination, do you recall me zooming in on all the pictures, showing the different dirt and dust in all the corners and crevices?
Yes,
And you remember me doing that? The tape's still on the ground, there's paper still on the ground,
yes,
and there's carpet in all the different parts of the house.
correct.
Based on all those pictures that I went through with Ms. Williams, because I don't want to do it again. Does it
We would all appreciate that, I'm sure.
I'm certain of that. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not that house was cleaned, if the house appeared to have been cleaned after 4 bodies were murdered as described by Dr. Chancery?
Objection calls for speculation, assumes facts not in evidence.
Overruled.
There was no evidence of that type of a cleanup that I observed.
And why do you say that?
Because the cleanup that would be needed, in my opinion, to remove that type of blood spatter and pooling of blood would have been more thorough so that there would not have been the dirt and dust and whatever other debris that I observed on the photographs taken at the McStay home.
looking at exhibit 114, this is the upstairs master bath, looking at the counter, and you can tell from the mirror that the bathtub's behind.
Yes,
If someone was bludgeoned to death in that bathtub by multiple strikes, would you expect to see cast off somewhere?
I would.
And would that cast off maybe go behind on the clothes that are on the counter?
It certainly could, yes.
See any evidence of blood on those clothing?
No.
And I'm looking kind of at the tile work and the grout. You ever seen blood on that type of?
exhibit is this?
Thank you, 113. The tile work and grout. Have you ever seen blood on any type of surface like that?
I have.
Is it easy to clean that out?
It's not,
And why is that?
because the blood can get into the nooks and crannies, the crevices, and it would be more difficult in that type of a surface than it would, for example, a glass table that is smooth.
So the more porous or rigid the item, the harder it is to clean.
Correct.
This be a good time to take our noon recess.
Sure.
All right, we'll go ahead and take our noon recess this time, till 1:30 this afternoon. Keep in mind the admonitions previously given to you, not to form or express any opinions about the case, not to discuss the case, and we'll see everyone back, 1:30.